Craig.
Do you think it will knock its way up the hill?
Don't do that.
Oh, okay.
Don't do
Okay,
it.
all right. Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Do you think when we go up the hill, you think maybe it'll kick a little dust up?
I blame Nashville for this. This is a real problem.
Y'all feel that? It's a tremor. That's what this is. This thing's 10.8 inches of ground clearance, an extra 2 inches up front. That's right, you better watch out, Power Wagon, we're coming for you. AT4, you better hurry up and catch up. We're gonna talk a lot about that, but let's turn over the interior now and let's see what Brian has to say.
Here we have the 2021 F350, and the important part of the interior is the King Ranch part. What does the King Ranch give you? Well, it gives you brown interior panels, which I think are really nice in today's black interior related market, including the steering wheel. They didn't cheapen out on the interior. There's brown door panels, there's brown dash panels, there's a lot of leather. Gone is the original King Ranch leather you had in like the early 2000s. It was rawhide based, and that's so you can have climate controlled seats. These happen to be very, very good climate controlled seats. In fact, I want to commend something about this. The seat bottom is incredibly long, and we both found that the initial comfort wasn't that surprising, but the longer we sat in here, the more comfortable we were. As far as infotainment goes, this is Sync 3, which is totally adequate. But when you drive a newer Ford product with Sync 4, it feels a little dated in comparison. Mostly that's due to screen size, but we both agreed that it was easier to navigate off the bat. There's less of a learning curve to that. You can stay tuned for 22 because this will get Sync 4 at that time, which will actually change the dash a little bit. Let's compare it to its competition. The HD GM trucks and the HD Ram. One thing right off the bat, this has much more headroom than I usually have in the HD Rams. I feel like the seat goes a little bit lower, but the interior design feels a little bit older compared to the Ram. The GM is getting refreshed right now, so we're going to exclude that one, but of the current GM interior, I think this is a little bit nicer. And with that all covered, it's time to get into the nuts and bolts.
15, 16, 17. Brian, will you help me get this? Get the bar? Oh, thank you. Never did that without a spotter. 17, why 17? Because 17Y is your order code for the trimmer package. And like that bar I was pumping earlier with the help of Brian, never do that without help, it's really heavy. This is a solid front axle, and it kind of speaks to the whole F-250, F-350 thing. Beefy. This whole truck's been working out. Everything on it is stout, but we're not gonna really get into that today. We're gonna focus on that 17Y trimmer package. What does that get you? It gets you a total of 10.8 inches of ground clearance and a water fording depth of about 33 inches, which is around here. But like what we like to do on this channel is, what does the manufacturer intend with their design? And the easiest way to tell that with anything is the tire. This is a big tire. It's a 285/75/18, also known as 35 inches. It's actually 34.8, but you know, that's close enough. It measures up to 35. It's a load E rated tire, which means each tire can handle about 4,000 pounds. That's a lot. It also means it's heavy. Speed rated is only speed rated to 99 miles an hour, which would explain why we couldn't get triple digits when we were driving around, if that matters. It's mud rated, it's snow rated. You can tell by the chunks and the blocks, it's really beefy and good for the mud, and you can see how it got that rating. So one of the things that tire does, it gets you an extra 1.5 inches over the normal F250 or F350. The trimmer package total gets you 2 inches extra. The other 1/2 inch comes over here, and that's with the coil spring up front. You get a little bit taller, 1/2 inch taller coil spring, and then you also, to back that up, you get a special damper. It just says trimmer, which we think means Ford in-house, but it's a little heavier duty. It's a 45 millimeter damper instead of a 35 millimeter, and that's important because there's a little more oil in there that allows it to take the heavy impacts when you're on washboard roads, and we got a chance to do that in this truck, and it handled it just fine. The last thing that's trimmer specific up front up here is that front LSD. Kind of hard to tell in this shot, but there's a limited slip differential up front, which does come in handy when you're at a traction situation where you need it up front. It'll kick in as you're starting to lose, it'll kick in. It's not a full locker. You get one of those in the back, but you can get that on other F-250s and 350s. You can't get that LSD in other packages. The other thing the trimmer gets you is a little bit different air dam up front, which helps with the approach angle. It gives you a 31-degree approach angle and we get a 24-degree departure angle. Again, that all has to do with the tire, the spring, and the extra height you're getting, 10.8 total. With that, let's move it on the powertrain and see what we got under the hood.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Diesel. This is the 6.7-liter Power Stroke paired with the 10-speed all-new transmission from Ford. It is not co-developed with anyone. It's their own heavy-duty transmission, and it's not shared with the 150. What makes this thing special? Well, this is the third gen of the Scorpion engine, which is the 6.7 from Ford. In 2020, the third gen came out, as well as the 7.3-liter gasser. It's a big block, cannon block, really good engine. We like that too. But this one's the big boy. It makes 1,050 torque. I know, 1,050 off the lot and 475 horse. That's a lot of power. But I do need to say that you don't really feel that when you're driving it. It's not the same thing. It feels powerful, not fast. So don't think race car, think grunt. It's got plenty of it. What makes the third gen so special? Well, it has a CGI block. It has a compacted graphite iron, which is the same material they use in the Ford 2.7 twin turbo V6. What that means is it's lighter than an iron block. It's also stronger. There's a lot of durability put into this. It has forged rods, crank, pistons, everything. This thing's a little bit unique because it's a pushrod block as well, but it has 4 valves per cylinder. Think about that. That's a lot of push rods. Why do they call it the Scorpion? Well, that's because this engine has a hot V. That means that the exhaust comes out the center and the air comes in the outside of the heads. On a traditional gas engine, you would have air coming down the middle and flowing out of the heads, down the exhaust manifolds. This is the other way around. And the way they designed the turbo is the turbo rests right in that V in the middle, right here. And it looks a little bit like a Scorpion, so that's where that name came from. Okay, we got to cover capability. This thing has a 355 gear ratio as equipped with this one. And that means it's good to pull at the bumper 20,000 pounds. Let me play that back. 20,000 pounds with the off-road package. If you do a gooseneck or a fifth wheel hitch in the bed, that jumps to 22,000 pounds. Now, the real news is the reason why you would get this over the gas engine is that it's roughly 5,000 pounds higher, both bumper or fifth wheel. That's really the biggest difference. The chassis is virtually unchanged, minor tuning and suspension, but that's about it. One more thing to cover, this truck has a winch. I know, from the factory. It's a $3,000 option, has a 70-foot line, and it's synthetic line, and it can pull up to 12,000 pounds on its own. There's endless capabilities here. You can take the trash out, you can walk your kids. I mean, it's endless. So good on you, Ford. I'm glad that's an option, and it really is knocking on the Power Wagon's door with that thing on there. Let's take it for a drive and see if it's worth driving.
All right, Brian, you told us enough about the engine. We talked about suspension. Let's see how it all translates when you get down on the road. You ready?
Let's hit it.
Hit it!
Let's try that again in four-wheel drive.
Okay.
All right, Trey, we just tried that in two-wheel drive, and we got a lot of wheel spin.
Yep.
Let's try it in 4 high.
4 high.
Let it roll and lock. But I have a feeling we'll get more result out of it.
Okay, yeah.
All right.
So you ready?
Let's do it.
3, 2,
Brake
1.
boost.
Hit it. Okay. Yeah, that helped.
30, 40, 50, 60. Okay. Brakes. Oh, boy.
It's got big ones.
It's got big ones. Yeah, so that's 0-60 in about 7 seconds. I know the diesel boys out there think that they're all very fast, and I'm just here to tell you they're very heavy too.
Oh, it's fast for a 7,800-pound vehicle.
Totally, yeah. But it's still 7,800 pounds, and that's with aluminum body panels.
Yes, the power-to-weight ratio is still a factor.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
All right, so how does it drive? I'm just going to be blunt about this, Craig.
I mean, I think we talked about it enough in the shop, so I think we know what's going to happen here.
It rides like a dump truck, and it sounds like a school bus.
Which is both good and bad.
But that's okay, because you know what? School buses are very reliable and haul a lot of kids, and dump trucks haul a lot of weight, and this will do that. I can just tell you really well. I threw 1,500 pounds of firewood in here.
Which is nothing.
While we had it.
I laughed at it.
I've done that in half-ton trucks before, and I've had to change how I drive the half-ton truck.
Yeah.
Oh, there's weight transfer, it's up high. I got maybe drive a little bit slower.
Right.
This just didn't even notice it was there.
Yeah.
And it rode better when it had some weight laden on
Right.
it. So I want to compare this to the 150 a little bit, because we've had a ton of time in those, and that's a very relevant vehicle to a lot of people. the 150 seems to be in the half-ton segment the most car-like of the trucks in terms of its features and how it wants to interact. It wants to approach. Anyone can get in and drive it, and there's no like truck drawbacks.
Right.
This seems to be of the 3/4 tons because it doesn't have good coil springs or GM's good IFS front suspension that rides well.
Yeah.
It seems to be the most trucky of the trucks.
Yes.
Right. So like it's really like they're bookending a little bit.
And then maybe probably by design. I'm sure the F-150 is more for a broad audience,
right?
Like you mentioned, and this is more for a work-specific audience.
Yeah.
You know, we talked. You know, we're here in Texas, and out in West Texas, there's a lot of oil field runners.
Yep.
Whether it was parts or compressors or equipment or service, they're constantly. They've got something heavy in the back, and they've got to go miles in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And it's got to be able to hold up to all that.
And on the highway,
and this will do that.
We've seen 18 miles a gallon in our driving on this.
Yeah.
And on the highway in the city, we're about 16. That's pretty good for something that's almost 8,000 pounds.
Absolutely. All right, Brian, you mentioned something to me earlier about, I love the way you coined it. You called it a paywall.
Oh yeah, the paywall.
It's like driving behind a paywall. What do you mean when you say that?
Okay, so I'm talking about I'm talking about Fords in particular. We've driven a lot lately, and they all seem to have these really incredible power plants. Yeah. This has 1,050 foot-pounds of torque.
They're doing great in the powertrain department right now.
475 horse. Those are big numbers. But I've got a feeling that in our daily use, we are never feeling 1,050 pounds of torque.
It never felt like it once.
Not once.
Yeah.
And you look down and you're like, oh yeah, we're doing 60. But like the 5-liter F-150 is faster than this. And I'm sorry, it feels faster than this.
So what you're saying is, you have no doubt that this motor makes 1,050 pound torque.
Absolutely. I'm not questioning that for a second.
But you seriously doubt how often you're actually getting that.
I doubt that the lawyers are letting us use that on the street. And I feel like we've tried some different things with this. I always mess with traction and stability controls to see how they're going to react. And it's never off. And this one's not even trying to act like it's off. The light says it's off. It'll continually remind you it's there and flash up when it senses any slip. So I'm getting at is I feel like if you had a 20,000 pound trailer behind you and grip was not a problem, it might unleash all 1,050.
You probably got it all.
You probably got it all, and it probably feels just as fast as when it's empty. So I'm glad it's there, but
that's a new modern thing in the entire industry.
That's not for
nobody's really getting what is being advertised all the time.
Correct.
No doubt that all these motors make that.
But with advanced, look, this thing has electronically controlled turbo. It can control everything. And it's going to bring it down for reliability.
And new cars are more reliable these days.
It's also why they can sell it in the first place at that number, is because the lawyers go, look, what are they really getting?
Yeah, in the old days, if it said 1,050, you actually got it all the time.
You got to
and people killed themselves.
And they died.
They didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, look at 911s. That's a wonder, Greg. Look at 911s in the 80s. They're just killing people left and right. Yeah. So yeah, that's something that...
That's a trade-off.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah, but you're right. Okay, Hipster Score. Ready?
Oh yeah.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2?
Yeah.
What do you mean 2?
Not a Raptor.
Okay, 1.
And mild overlandability, but it's kind of big for that, so I don't know that.
No, I'm with you. I think you're right with those two, but you gotta add on. I think hipsters care about people actually doing what its intended purpose is.
Okay.
So I think a lot of half tons lose points because no one really needs a truck most of the time, 90% of the time.
Yeah, they're just the other drivers for most people.
A lot of the people that buy this actually use it for some work applications, and hipsters will give an exemption for that.
Look, that's true, but I'm not going to give it that point because this is a King Ranch.
And
the hipster goes, that's not a blue-collar guy in a work truck.
Okay, maybe.
Spending,
you might be right.
40. He's spending 83,000.
What if it was a white King Ranch?
Without the two-tone, hipster may not know the difference.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but the trimmer package with the block wheels kind of lets out the value yet. All right, on that note, let's do the hill test real quick.
On that note, yeah.
All right, Craig. I think it's time for the hill test.
Time for the hill test.
This thing is a bit of a monster.
It is.
And I don't think it needs a torque multiplication of 4 low.
Probably not.
But I've got a feeling that 2 high is not going to get it because it's just too heavy.
Okay.
So for the sake of time, let's just go 4 high.
Just do it.
Diff open, let's see what happens.
All right. I like it.
All right, and just for the viewers, as you know, this thing's been rutted out a little bit more from some other testing. And so it might be a little bouncy.
But it's a good test of approach and breakup.
Which I don't think the trimmer's going to struggle with.
No, not with 35s.
Wow, that was...
Yeah.
I was expecting front wheel spin, but this has a limited slip front, Greg.
Oh, that's right. Specific to the trimmer.
And it rides like a bus still or a dump truck, but you know what? It does quite well and articulates more than I thought it would.
Well, if you needed to get a load of gravel up a hill, this is the truck.
All right, got it covered. Let's go to the shop and wrap this thing up.
Let's do it. Oh, Brian, it's been a long day.
Yeah, it has. Would you like a drink?
Man, I'm thirsty.
Got you covered.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. I'm pretty sure that that's what what Warren had in mind.
Yeah, it's a good thing it's a 12,000 pound winch because that was pretty convenient.
That was a 2-packer right there.
Yeah.
Now, the real question, who is this one for? King Ranch trimmer.
Well, I think the trimmer is for the person that actually lives on a ranch. I just wanted to say it, throw it out there. And actually it has some off-road situations where there's some spots maybe it's hard to get through, and they do have a little bit of a load, whether it's feed or some hay or what, who knows, equipment.
Right.
Who knows what it is. And they don't want to get stuck.
Or a trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we've spent time on ranches before. There's creek crossings and things like that where at least the locking dip is required. I don't know if this is required, but let's be honest. The 2-inch lift this thing gives you, it adds inches to both ego and libido. And so we got to be real about that. That's what this thing I think is for.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to buy this. They care about that more than anything else.
I'll also add, I think this is also for the overland community is on fire right now.
Oh, true.
And one of the problems with the Power Wagon is the payload. You can't put a camper net, you got to immediately modify the springs.
Put airbags or something like that.
Now it's not like a Power Wagon really is.
It's not a turnkey.
This is a little more turnkey. You can put a camper on this, and there's not any trade-offs.
And you just go.
You just go.
And there's still enough articulation. It gets over stuff. So I think that's about it. Been a long day. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Brake Check Show for all the good stuff that we do. And we'll catch you next time.
Brian?
Don't.
I think it's time to,
no.
You know it's time. No. It's time to head on back to the Ponderosa.
Don't do it.
We've been working along out here on the ranch with the King Ranch trimmer. And we've got our pack mule ready. We've got 2 days ration.
Have a good night.
2-day ride.